One of you, most of all, I thank God for Mother Moon. And we should just continue to keep her in our thoughts, our prayers, and especially on our tongue. Because she's done things for women that no other woman will ever be able to say they have done. Come on now. And I thank God for her. That's when I had to say something about her. I love reading her book on Mondays, and even when I can't make it to the, and I know I'm supposed to be here for talking about like Martin Luther King, but we still need to talk about who we are. Who we are, yeah. And that's what we're all about. So only thing I'm saying on Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and it's only for like 30, 35 minutes, I wish you all would just pick up the phone and just listen to the reading of Mother Moon, because it really helped you to understand where she come from and what she had gone through. Praise God, I see one of my best little friends back there. He taught me well, and I just love him. And thank God for you. But I wanted to let you know that it was Women in the Ministry with the ACLC. We just want you to know that we want more women to come out and to help us. And I too, Mama George, tell me when I read that about the first black woman, not black, but the first woman to speak at the Baptist conference. Oh, honey, I got up and I had to do a dance because I came out of the Baptist churches, so I know how they are. So I thank God for that. But I want to go back to Martin Luther King. And I remember as a young person, I was working at the time for the post office. And as working for the post office, I traveled a lot because I was working with the union. So my first time to meet Dr. Martin Luther King was in Birmingham, Alabama. Oh yeah, I know he's from Atlanta, but that's where I met him. And at that particular time, they was doing honorary programs, and I was one of them that was being honored, and they gave me the key to the city of Birmingham. I still have that key, which don't mean nothing, but I still have it. And I thank God for that. But I met him, I met Andy Young, and my favorite person at the time who traveled with me from Memphis, Tennessee, down there was the Reverend Billy Cowles. And we just had a good time, and I was young, and that's why I don't care what nobody say. I just love my men around me. I love you women, but it's nothing like having a man around you. And we traveled. We traveled and we had a ball. And sometimes we would go on the train, sometimes we would drive. And very seldom, the only time we flew was when we was going to Washington, D.C. And I worked in Washington, D.C. for the union. I lobbied on Capitol Hill for like about 6.5 years. But that gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people. So we went on with that, and from that on, I never forget when they were saying that I didn't make it like you did. I wasn't blessed to be in Washington, D.C. with them. But I remembered in Memphis, Tennessee, where I was born, raised, and went to school. My family, my children was born there and everything. So Memphis at that particular time was very segregated. And sometimes it is. But what happened is that the garbage man was making like about 99 cents an hour. And this was back in the 70s, you all. So these are the things that was happening. So they went on and it was working. But you know, I never forget the night of the eve that Dr. Martin Luther King came in. Yeah, but before he came in, he had just left from doing a march for the poor. Yes. His wife did not want him to come to Memphis. She said she had an ill feeling, and she told him not to come. But he said, I got to go for my brothers. So he came, and he told them, all that came, and Abenaki and all of them got together, and they came. And Jesse Jackson from Chicago, he came. And they came in to help the garbage men. That's what they was called, not sanitation workers at that time. It was garbage men. And they was picking up the garbage while the white man was driving the truck. And they had to walk and pick up all the stinking garbage. And it's so hurtful because they picked garbage up in every community, every neighborhood, every day, for the exception of the black people. Black people garbage got picked up once a week. We could only go to the zoo once a week. So these are the things that happened. But Martin Luther King said, and he was such a peaceful man. He was such a loving man. He never had anything unkind to say about anything. Every time that I was around him, I can't speak for what he did before, but when I was around him, the few times I was with him, he was so mild-mannered and he was so sweet. But he went on and he told his wife, he said, I got to go. He said, I don't know if I'm coming back or not. He said, but I'm going. I have to go with my brothers. So they got there, and I guess he was so tired. So they went to Lorraine Motel, which is near downtown. And when he got there, they got the room, and I think he was in room, if I'm not, 306. I believe that was it. And he was there, and I knew Lorraine Motel very well. Very well that I knew it, because we used to go there and have meetings there and do various things there. So, yes, I was a little wild girl who enjoyed doing this and doing that, and I love working with everybody and anybody. Still do, but that's just my way of doing things. So when he got there, he was feeling bad. He was so sick until he said, I just got to lay down for a while. And he told Reverend Abernathy and the rest of them, you all go on to the meeting. The meeting was at the Mason Temple in Memphis, Tennessee. That's one of the Church of God in Christ national headquarters. And he said, you all go on. I'll come on later on. So they did. They came on to the meeting, and the place was packed. I mean, packed to the capacity with people. And but when they got ready, when people saw that Martin Luther King was not there, they got a little disturbed. And they started talking, and when they began to talk, I think Reverend Abernathy went and called him and told him, he said, you got to come because the people about to start a riot because you are not here. So they sent back and they got him. And what I can't understand about that meeting, every time Martin Luther King came to Memphis, Tennessee, he had security. But this particular week, he had no security. None whatsoever, no more than the ones that was with him. And all these things began to happen, and they went and picked him up and brought him back. And he was very weak, you all, that night. I don't know if it was because of a cold or because he was just tired or what it was. But I wasn't that close to him that particular night because I was sitting like about the third row from the podium. So I wasn't there on the stage with him, so I don't know what they were saying, but I know he was weak. And when he got up to speak, they had to help him up. And he came and he gave that most fabulous speech. I've been to the mountaintop. That was, oh my God, it was so precious. I can hear his voice now when he's singing it. And he said, I want to live a long time, but I don't know what God has in store for me. I know that's right. He said, but whatever it is, he made the point to say that he was 39. He said, I don't believe I'm going to make it another year. He said, because God showed me the mountaintop. And I'm paraphrasing. But as he was saying all these things, he kept on. He said, I may not be with you all long, but I want you to remember one thing. Love you one another. Yes, yes. And he kept that love in his mind. And he talked. But when he finished talking, we noticed that he was getting a little weak. So when he finished with it, he said that they took him and they sit him back down in the chair. They held on till he got down. So he sat there with us and they went on and talked. But then they said we was going to have another meeting the next morning. Well, it poured down raining so hard, you all. I mean, I can't ever remember that it was raining that hard in Memphis, Tennessee that day before. But let me tell you what they did. Black people, black men who was working in the sanitation workers, they was not able to go into a building. The white man could go into a building and sit down while it was raining or whatever it was doing. But when it came to the black people, they had to stay on the outside. They had no building that they could go into. But guess what happened? it was raining so hard until some of the men, 2 of them especially, got into the back of the garbage truck. Y'all know how that thing rotates when they pull the garbage in? Well, they were sitting there, but there was 2 white men that was inside of the cabinet. And while they were sitting there, where it was still raining and everything, some kind of way, I'm not going to say they did it. I'm not going to say that it malfunctioned. I don't know. But I do know one thing. Those men was crushed. While they were sitting in the back, they was crushed to death. And while that was happening, nobody, not one of those men got out of the cabinet to see if they could help them. Well, it was probably too late then because they was crushed to death. So that's why Martin Luther King came to help the sanitation workers. After all that began to happen, I still, just as the Mrs. King, Coretta Scott King, didn't believe, Dexter King did not believe that Ray is the one that pulled that trigger. I don't believe it. They can't make me believe it. J. And a place, I'm not remember the name of the cafe, that nothing but white people could go in, which was sitting on the east side of the Lorraine Hotel. They was able to see the Lorraine Hotel from that cafe. Okay, it wasn't the best looking place, but they was there. That man also was a part of the Ku Klux Klan who had those people killed. Had that man killed. And I said the 2 men too. Not only him, there were so many others. But if you read and study your history, you'll understand what I'm saying. All these things began to happen. Oh, Jesus. All these things began to happen. And Ray, although he had done some devious things, he was set up. They gave him, hearsay, $100,000. That's a lot of money. A lot of money. Garbage men thought 99 cents was a lot of money. But $100,000 was a lot of money. But and he made it plain. The reason I know it's $100,000, he told his brother. But now he pleaded guilty to everything for the exception of one thing. I did not pull the trigger. They asked him, said, did you go into the room and look out? He said, I'm guilty. Did you look over at Lorraine Motel? He said, yes, I'm guilty. Did you shoot Martin Luther King? No, I did not. They took that man's things. He had a blanket that he used to carry with him. And with that blanket, his number from what he was staying in, he was in jail. I don't know if it was federal jail or civic jail. I don't know what it was. But he was there, penitentiary. And he had that with him. He and one other person robbed a bank in Alton. And they got away with it. He changed his name to another name. Then he changed his name to another name. He changed his name 4 times. So he was able to continue to run and get away with a lot of things. They wasn't looking, if it had been a black man, he'd have been gone a long time ago. But because of his color, he was able to get away with a lot of things. They wasn't looking for him that much. But what he had them to do was give him, I don't know how many thousands of dollars, all in 20s at the bank. And everywhere he went, he needed a car so he could travel. He went and bought him a white car. I forgot what kind it was, but it was a white car, and that's the car that they said was parked right in front of the cafe, which was owned, and I can't call his name, but it was a white man. I can't call his name, but anyway, his car was parked there. They gave him a room. He paid with some of those 20s, so they say. And not only did that begin to happen, y'all, I won't be before you long, because when I start talking about Martin Luther King, it just gets all through me. And I heard Reverend Fanny say that she would let all our children to study black history. I know that's right. But guess what? After going to high school, grammar school, high school, and to college, you know when I learned black history? When I got to Howard University. They would teach you a little bit. And that's what Martin Luther King was trying to tell us. Teach your children. Teach your children from where they're coming to where they're going and where they're coming from and what they're going to do. I did not get that until I got to Howard University to study to be an attorney. But I never did make it because God called me into the ministry. But let me tell you something. After all these things began to happen, this man got away. Give me 2 minutes and I'll be gone. This man got away and he left Memphis, Tennessee running. There was a black woman which was homeless. And the last time, well, she sit there forever because they tried to make her leave and she wouldn't leave. But she sat right there at Lorraine Motel on the outside. She had her bed and things set up, same way the immigrants have their houses set up downtown in various places. This black woman had her place set up in front of Lorraine Motel. And when the shot went off that particular day, she saw a white man running. But guess what? He was that's when we said that we don't know where that shot came from. Because she said that she saw a white man with a white cap on and a white shirt running out of the wood, out of the weeds. There was some tall weeds that was dividing the place from Lorraine Motel in front of the cafe, the back of it. But after all these things began to happen, she told them, but guess what they did? When she told them that this man was coming out of those weeds running with a gun, guess what? They had the city workers to come in the very next morning around 6:30 or 7 o'clock and cut those weeds down. Because they didn't want no evidence of what had happened. My God. And that woman sit there for, I know, at least 12, 13, maybe 15 years. They tried to give her a place to stay. She didn't want it. She stood outside of the Lorraine Motel all that time, and the weather was good or bad, she was there. So these things began to happen. But let me go back to this, and I 1 minute. Martin Luther King said his work was done there. So he was going to leave. But before he left, he was going to set up a place where we could have a march. We never did make it to the march, but when we found out that he had been killed, we started a riot. And we started from Mason Temple. And we went from Mason Temple down Walton Street, all the way through Lauderdale, all these different streets, and we came all the way around to, at that time, they had just named Thomas Street Danny Thomas Boulevard. And as we was coming, the police came along and tried to run us away. I had my 3 daughters with me. And my youngest one was only 3 years old. And we was marching. I was teaching my children about my black history. As we was marching, all at once, they started blowing horns and told us we better leave. Well, nobody, we was marching peacefully. We was marching peacefully with our signs. We was marching peacefully. But guess what they did? Children and all. They began to spray us. And we took off running different directions. That was the Bishop J.O. Patterson Senior's church. It was a Church of God in Christ. And some tried to get in there, but the church was locked. Well, I don't know, but it was locked. So there was a restaurant called Melvin's Nightclub. Well, I knew about that because I used to go there and dance. So I took my children, we ran into the nightclub, and we went out the back door. But I came back. I said, Martin Luther King can do this for us. Why can't we do this for him? So I carried my children home and left them at home. I came back. So we continued with the march, but it was so many other black people that were stumbled. They stumped on and arrested them and did everything to them. And even there was 3 people who got killed that day. And the white men never went to jail because of that. There's not a prejudiced bone in my body. But at a particular time, I was very angry. I love everybody. God told me to love everybody. And because God been so good to me, I can't do nothing but love you. I don't care if you black, blue, gold, or whatever. I love you. And I went on, and after all these things began to happen, my God, they got away with it. But when they arrested Mr. Ray, they arrested him. How did he get to London if he didn't have some help? The man didn't even have a passport. He changed his name 4 different times, so he didn't even have a birth certificate. But when he got to London, he had 3 passports. How did he get them? So I'm saying to you all, take your young people, pull them off the street, teach them about the love of God. Teach them about the dream of Martin Luther King. Help them to understand that we can love and not hate. Help them know that we can hug and not shoot. We got to teach our young people. Our children are having children. Yes. Let's do something about it. God bless you. I'm not through, but I got to stop. Bless you.
Thank you. Let's give it up. First-hand testimony. First-hand. She was there. I was there. She told it like she saw it.